Aloha, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about our ancient Oblivion, which is basically a fancy way of me saying hidden history. The strange things that have happened in our past and how they relate to the present and the times that we're in right now, and also prophecy, the future. What times do we live in? What happened in ancient history? Why are so many things changed around and switched up and covered up? Well, today we're going to be looking at time itself. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at something known as the phantom time hypothesis, is what I'm going to go ahead and call that. Phantom time theory, phantom time conspiracy. And I want to thank everybody. Larissa Knipe is in the chat and says, "It sounds great. Thank you for letting me know." We are live streaming right now, so welcome to the show. And I've decided that I like taking calls. I've been taking calls from you guys, I don't know, for the past week or so. And I've enjoyed it so far. So I'm going to try taking some more calls after I give a little presentation. The phone number is right down here. If you want to, go ahead and think of a question or something that pertains to the topic today. And I'll take some calls towards the end, and we'll see how that goes. Okay? All right, great. All right, sweet. Let me go ahead and let me know if everything looks good and sounds good. I know a couple people have already, but I am getting an error on YouTube. And if you see a little dot on my face, that's just from when I nicked myself shaving. So I'm okay. Let's go ahead and check out this phantom time hypothesis. So time is strange. I'm going to start off by saying that time's weird, and I feel like time's speeding up, and that's really the crescendo of this entire presentation. That's really where we're going to go with all the different strange anomalies that we're going to discuss when it comes to time. I don't believe that time, as far as how we keep track of it, is stagnant. I believe that, and I've found lots of evidence to support, that it's constantly shifting and changing, sometimes speeding up, sometimes slowing down, sometimes pausing, according to different stories that I've seen. Thanks everybody in the chat. I appreciate you guys. And thanks for all your support too. Your moral support the other day meant a lot to me. I want to give a huge shout out. Speaking of support, shout out to Ian. Shout out to Ian Luxton. I got your email. I'll go ahead and respond to that after the show. Kathy Reed she pledged $19.99 through Patreon to get her name animated in the credits. So big shout out to Kathy Reed. And I think that's it for now. All right, cool. So let's jump into this time topic, okay? Time's real weird. Time's acting funny lately. And there's prophecies that talk about how time will change towards the end of time, or towards the apocalypse, basically. And I believe all of this is connected and related. So let's start with this concept of the phantom time conspiracy theory. So there was a theory that was put forth a few decades back by a guy that had been doing a lot of research, and his theory says that back during the Middle Ages, that there were some leaders, some world leaders and religious leaders, that it was before the year 1000, and they wanted to shift the calendar, the actual year that it was, and change it to the year 1000 so that their rule lined up with this historic event, or this historic point in time, which is the year 1000, which many of you know would line up with like the concept of a millennial rule or a millennial reign of Jesus, so that they could rule during, with Jesus, or during that time of a golden age, or a prophesied golden age, 1,000-year period. Or inversely, with Satan during his little season, that it's prophesied that he would rule. No, it's Paul Brown, you crack me up. That's just from shaving. Yeah. Anyways, phantom time conspiracy theory. Let's check this out. So, phantom time conspiracy theory. I'm going to read from Wikipedia, just to give myself some prompts so that I can give you the gist of it, and I'm going to comment on it. Not that I rely upon Wikipedia or ChatGPT or any of those things. I just kind of use them to remind myself of things I wanted to talk about. So, phantom time conspiracy theory is a pseudo-historical conspiracy theory, first asserted by Heribert Illig in 1991. Let me time out. Let's talk about this word pseudo. If you ever hear pseudo-historical, pseudo-academic, pseudo-mathematical, it doesn't matter. It means fake. It means false. And it implies that it's garbage, that it's a lie. So this is how Wikipedia prefaces this. They're telling you right away, although they have an entire article about it, they're telling you it's not real. Just to start things off, that it's pseudo-historical. Now, who determines whether or not something is fake history or real history? Well, it's your governments. It's the people who are running the world and in charge of your world. They're the ones that tell you what's acceptable or what you should accept, right? They're the ones that will label these things as like the Ministry of Truth, as it was known in the book 1984 by Orson Welles. Pseudo-historical conspiracy theory. So it's got my attention immediately. If they're calling it pseudo-historical, and I know that I live in a time when everything's upside down and the devil basically runs the world, then I know I should look into it. So it hypothesizes a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor named Otto III and Pope Sylvester II to fabricate the Anno Domini dating system retroactively in order to place them at the special year of AD 1000 and to rewrite history to legitimize Otto's claim to the Holy Roman Empire. That's just all fancy way of explaining what I've already explained to you. They changed the year by hundreds of years, as it's suggested. Now, is this the first time, if it's true, that that world leaders would have fabricated history? No, by no means. They've fabricated history many times, and we've caught them, and we have evidence of them fabricating history many times. As a matter of fact, the whole history of the Tartarian Empire had been all but erased by the Russian government, according to government documents that have been released in the past 100 years that admit this, that they didn't want people to look into the tribes of Tartaria, and so they made up lies about that particular nation, we'll say. So this writer, Illig, he believed that this was achieved through alteration, misrepresentation, and forgery of documents and physical evidence. According to this scenario, the entire Carolinian period, including the figure of Charlemagne, is a fabrication, with a phantom time of 297 years between AD 614 and AD 911 that were added in the early Middle Ages. Now, let's talk about the figure of Charlemagne. I'm not completely convinced that that person ever existed. Personally, I'm not an expert on the rule of Charlemagne. I can tell you the name Charles, or Carl is basically what his name is, Charles, you could say. And then Magne, right? It basically means like strong husband or strong father, the great father, the all father, you could say. So I'm not completely convinced that he existed, or other people that are similar in nature, legendary, like King Arthur or Alexander the Great, or any of these legendary types of figures. Charlemagne basically came to power, from what I understand, after the Roman Empire had basically fallen apart, according to the official story, and just was an immediate savior figure, that he just rose up and became the leader and fixed everything out of seemingly nowhere. So I'm not personally convinced that he actually existed. It goes on to say evidence contradicts the hypothesis, and it failed to gain the support of historians and calendars in other European countries. Most of Asia and parts of pre-Columbian America contradict this. So now they're adding a little their own 2 cents, saying none of this is true and it's not believable. However, let's write a whole article about it. Illig was born in 1947. He was active and association dedicated to, he was associated with Immanuel Velikovsky. who also was somebody that, was highly regarded at one point within the academic community and the collegiate community. But because of his theories about catastrophism and how these cycles have changed our history, he was laughed at and went from being highly regarded and respected to being seen as a quack, basically. Revising history through comparative mythology and through, a second look at different historic texts and accounts and religious stories. From 1989 to 1994, he acted as editor of the journal, a German journal, and since 1995, he has worked as a publisher and author under his own publishing company and his own publishing journal. Outside of his publications related to revised chronology, he has edited the works of Egon Friedel. Before focusing on the early medieval period, he published various proposals for revising the chronology of prehistory and of ancient Egypt. His proposals received prominent coverage in the German popular media in the 1990s. Let's see. I'm just going to skip through some of this here. After 97, there has been little scholarly reception of his ideas, although they continue to be discussed as pseudo-history in German popular media. And he continued to publish on the phantom time hypothesis until about 2013. He also published on an unrelated topic of art history, the German Renaissance, and other things. But let's go ahead and look at the claim. What is the claim of this phantom time hypothesis? This one person's particular claims include that there is a scarcity of archaeological evidence that can be reliably dated to the periods between 614 and 911. So he's saying if you look at the archaeological record, there's not a lot of evidence to support that, there's things left over that date back to that, 300-year period, basically. That the dating methods used for such recent periods, such as radiometry and dendrochronology, are inaccurate, right? So, like carbon dating, which I agree with. I don't think carbon dating is accurate. And dendrochronology. Dendrochronology is looking at the tree rings after you cut a tree down, counting up the light and the dark bands within the trees, which are supposed to represent 1 year. There's a huge problem with that, though, with dendrochronology. And it blows my mind that mainstream academics just accepts that as an absolute science. Environmental conditions, atmospheric conditions, and earthly conditions, as well as other local factors, can contribute to tree rings being produced more or less during a given time span. So if we have major atmospheric changes or cataclysms in the world, these things that determine how we mark the beginning of time and the end of time, these epochs and ages and eons, then yeah, they're going to affect the tree rings or the record that's contained within these plants. He also says that medieval historians rely too much on written sources. Not really sure exactly what that's about. It's kind of vague. The presence of Romanesque architecture in the 10th century Western Europe suggests that the Roman era was not as long ago as conventionally thought. I tend to agree with that, not just with the Roman era architecture, but with all architecture going back only 100, 150 years. There's something wrong with the architectural record, with the period of these buildings and the technology that would be required to make so many different things, and that can take us down many different rabbit holes, which we've discussed many times, from castles to cathedrals and so on and so forth. He also thought that at the time of the introduction of the Gregorian calendar around 1582, there should have been a discrepancy of 13 days between the Julian calendar, which was the calendar they had used prior to that, and the real or the tropical calendar, when the astronomers and mathematicians working for Pope Gregory the 13th had found that the civil calendar needed to be adjusted by only 10 days. From this, he concludes that the AD era had counted roughly 3 centuries, which had never existed. So, in layman's terms, back in 1582, in September, the calendar skipped 10 days out, right? And he calculated it should have skipped 13. And that there was this sort of drifting of time. And he figured out that their calculations seemed to be off. And so he did the calculations himself, and he came up with approximately 300 years that were added to the calendar, which means, if that's true, today, just given this theory, we would be 300 years behind. This would not be the year 2025. We would be 2025 minus 300 years. And that's only considering this particular theory of the phantom time, right? So anyways, back in 1582, there was a huge, this caused riots. This caused a lot of strife, anger. People were wondering about getting paid those 10 days, people were wondering about their holy days and the Sabbaths and all kinds of stuff. This spread for the next few hundred years as people were pressured by the church and by all of Europe, basically, to conform to this 10-day period that was manipulated on the Gregorian calendar, right? Now we're going to talk about the calendars and stuff too after this. Now, they say here are the things that refute this theory, this conspiracy theory. And I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying I would like to consider it with a free mind and my own intellect to weigh out the pros and cons myself instead of just being told it's false and it's garbage. Now, here's what they say. Observations in ancient astronomy, especially those of solar eclipses cited by European sources prior to 600 AD, when the phantom time would have distorted the chronology, agree with the usual chronology and not with the authors. Besides several others that are perhaps too vague to disprove the phantom time hypothesis, two in particular are dated with enough precision to question the hypothesis. So they're going to give us these two examples. One is reported by Pliny the Elder in 59 AD, which I'm going to tell you right off the bat, that's hundreds and hundreds of years before this. So I would take that with a huge grain of salt. And I'm going to talk to you more about Pliny the Elder as well, because I'm not completely convinced that he existed either. This date was confirmed, has a confirmed eclipse. So Pliny the Elder, who wrote Natural History as one of his popular books, that he discussed this eclipse that had happened. Okay, well, eclipses happen every year, all the time, going all the way back into time. So is it possible that they are forcing the eclipse that they want it to be onto the eclipse that was mentioned? Yes, it is possible. But we'll come back to that. This date has a confirmed eclipse. In addition, observations during the Tang dynasty in China and Halley's Comet, or Halley's Comet, for example, are consistent with current astronomy and no phantom time added. So they just kind of mentioned the whole, some people in China saw Halley's Comet. No, they didn't. There was no such thing as Halley's Comet back then. During this alleged sighting of Halley's Comet. So they're trying to say, well, look, in the Chinese record, they're saying that they saw Halley's Comet. And if you do the math and you go back, then there were no 300 years added or taken away. Which, if I did the math, and it absolutely could be, because Halley's Comet doesn't just come like clockwork, the same time every 50 or 70, however many years or whatever, right? It comes between a time period. So you can easily have seen Halley's Comet in ancient China, and it still would fit the phantom time hypothesis. I did the math myself, and it still fits. It's still very close to the time when Halley's Comet would have arrived anyway. However, you can't prove that that was Halley's Comet. That could have been any kind of comet. You know what I mean? They could call any of the comets in the past, oh, that one was Halley's Comet because of the timing or whatever, but you don't know that for sure. So those are their two main things that they offer, Pliny the Elder and Halley's Comet. Now I'm going to come back to Pliny in just a minute. They also say archaeological remains and dating methods such as dendrochronology refute the phantom timeline. I've already talked about how dendrochronology is not accurate as far as how they think that it works, or their dependence upon it. Let's see what else. The Gregorian reform was never purported to bring the calendar in line with the Julian calendar as it had existed in the time of its institution in 45 BC. Let's see, this part's kind of boring for me to read. Basically, they're talking about the Council of Nicaea and how during that time people were trying to figure out when they should celebrate the vernal equinox, or Easter, basically, and that celebration had shifted from the 21st of March all the way back by about 10 days or so, which further proves that the seasons are changing. And if you look around the world right now, you might see what I see. You might be experiencing what I'm experiencing, which is our seasons are changing. Just in my lifetime, and this is just from my little perspective on my own little path. I don't represent everyone in the world or anything, but I remember when we had solid seasons, especially here in Colorado where I live, where we used to have 4 strong seasons. It would snow in October, right? Especially right around Halloween. Usually, sometimes you could get it a week or 2 before that, but it would start snowing because wintertime is coming. Now it doesn't do that anymore. We got to wait until like late December, usually. There's a train coming by. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. I can't help where I live. But anyways, the seasons are off, man. Crops are not growing in the time that they're supposed to grow. The crops are late. It's like winter is stretching all the way into spring. You know what I mean? The seasons are off. So that's another thing I would point out. Let's see. They also say if Charlemagne and the Carolingian dynasty were fabricated, there would have had to be a corresponding fabrication of the history of the rest of Europe. So they're basically saying like everyone would had to have been in on it. That's the same thing I've heard with almost every conspiracy theory when people try to refute it. You know how many people it would take to keep that secret or to spread those lies or whatever? Yeah, one. It would take one person at the top who just convinces 10 other people who convince 10 other people. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a pyramid scam. That's how it could work. I could tell you that. They're also talking about the Islamic calendar, which is interesting because the Islamic calendar didn't even start with like what you would expect, which would be the birth of Muhammad, their prophet, but like on moving day when Muhammad decided to like pack up and move to another city. That's kind of strange to me as well. All right, so let's talk about Pliny the Elder for just a moment, because that's one of their main proofs, right? So there's not a lot of historic records at all that even prove the existence of Pliny the Elder. I'm talking louder because there's a train going by. Right? So one of the proofs that Pliny the Elder existed as a historic figure is, like I said earlier, his book Natural History, right, which has his name in it. But that could be a pseudonym. There's the word pseudo again. It's a fake name. It's a pen name, right? And that happened a lot in ancient history, that people attributed their book to other ancient names or other people, or just made up names that they liked. They used pseudonyms a lot in ancient history. The Bible's a great example of people, naming different books of the Bible after people who allegedly wrote it, but they didn't. So, one of the major proofs of the existence of Pliny the Elder. So sorry about the train. One of the main proofs is Pliny the Younger wrote some letters to some government officials about the death of Pliny the Elder, who you would think is his father. If one's called Pliny the Elder and the other one's called Pliny the Younger, you'd think that, Pliny the Elder is the father, Pliny the Younger is the son. He's not. Pliny the Elder, all right, or the estate belonging to that name, was expansive. It was rich. So when that figure died, whoever inherited it, whoever was next in line, would basically become extremely wealthy, extremely rich. Guess who that was? Pliny the Younger, which is not his real name. This guy declared himself to be adopted by this figure known as Pliny the Elder. And he says, oh yeah, my uncle, which is Pliny the Elder, died during Mount Vesuvius's eruption. Another historic event that I question. that I definitely call into questioning. Am I saying there's no such place as Pompeii or Herculaneum? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is there's next to no written record of Vesuvius exploding. There's next to none that I could find. I'll just be honest with you, and I don't want to make absolute statements, but I can't find anything except for one letter or two letters specifically that were written by Pliny the Younger, who lived just off the coast, down across the waters, and he watched the whole thing happen. And he swears and solemnly affirms that his uncle tragically died. Let me read you the story real quick. Speaking of history being fabricated, okay? So the government wrote to Pliny the Younger, and they wanted him to give an account. They're like, hey, you said Pliny the Elder died in Mount Vesuvius's eruption. Tell us what happened. This is a suspicious story, okay? So he says, I'm going to sum this up, actually, just for the sake of time, okay? If you want to, you can easily look this up on the internet. I'm just going to sum this up because it's a lengthy letter. But what he says is when he was approximately 18 years old, right, he lived on the ocean further away from Mount Vesuvius, out of harm's way, and they noticed that there was all this smoke billowing up from the volcano. And his uncle, Pliny the Elder, was living with him at the time, I guess, and his scientific mind started to go off, and he wanted to go study it or whatever, even though it was darkening the skies, as if he didn't know what a volcano was, right? So then, at the exact same time that they're noticing that the volcano is going off, basically, and that it's erupting, it's alleged that he got a letter from a family member that lived at the base of the volcano. That's pretty fast, if you ask me. That's pretty quick mail to be delivered, that long ago. Anyways, like during the very first century, he just instantly got mail. And the mail was from a woman who was like, help, I'm trapped at the base of the island. I need rescuing. So he decided to get on his boat, have a bunch of guys go with him to Mount Vesuvius that was in the middle of erupting. Pliny the Younger, he starts describing about how there was pumice falling from the sky. There was smoke plumes. There was ash everywhere. And Pliny the Elder goes on this death mission, this suicide mission, to go rescue some girl. Right? So he gets there. You know what he does when he first gets there? In the middle of this eruption? He takes a bath. Yeah, he decided to kick back and relax. Takes a bath, hangs out, talks to his family members or something like that. And then as rocks are falling from the sky, right? They decide maybe we should, start packing up and getting ready to go. This is literally what's said in the letter, okay? So they tie pillows to their heads and they're walking around outside or whatever. And then a toxic plume of gases envelop the area, especially where Pliny the Elder was. And he instantly dies. He just falls down dead because of toxic gases. Nobody else does. And they even, the Pliny the Younger is even quoting things that people said and stuff. He wasn't there. Keep this in mind. He was not there. And he wrote this letter years later after he was 18 and allegedly witnessed this event from hundreds of miles away when he wasn't even there. He wasn't even an eyewitness, but he's writing it as if he's an eyewitness. Anyways, that's the gist of that story, okay? Yeah, it says he bathed and dined carefree, or at least appearing so, which is equally impressive. Meanwhile, broad sheets of flame were lighting up many parts of Vesuvius. Their light and brightness were more vivid for the darkness of the night. To alleviate people's fears, my uncle claimed that the flames came from the deserted homes of farmers who had left in a panic, etc. Anyways, the story is highly suspect, okay? And it's like one of the only accounts that I could find of Vesuvius erupting. That's it. You know what I mean? So, that's suspicious to me. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Oops. Damn it. So all we have here, the evidence for Pliny the Elder's existence is a large body of text, natural history, which was attributed to C. Plinius Secundus, a possible inscription where he was born, or alleged to have been born, which they do that with people who had pen names and mythic characters throughout history and stuff as well. And oftentimes they'll do that so that their city can get tourism. A biographical narrative that was written by a supposed nephew, which was Pliny the Younger, who did have something to gain by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm actually next in line. I'm going to inherit everything, that whole estate. That's all mine now." I'm so sad about my uncle's death, though. I'm so sad. Let me tell you everything that happened. I swear. So I'm not totally convinced of this guy's death. Pliny the Younger's actual real name is Gaius Caecilius. So it's not even Pliny anything. So that's all very suspicious to me. Next up, I want to talk about the Middle Ages real quick and strange things that happened. I believe that we went through an electromagnetic shift during the Middle Ages that led us into the quote-unquote season of Satan that we now live in, or an electromagnetic shift, a polarity reversal from positive energy to negative energy, spiritually speaking, you could say. And I believe that these shifts that we go through are cyclical. Sometimes they're major, sometimes they're minor, and that equates to apocalyptic cycles, and cataclysmic cycles, right? Which I consider to be smaller, even though they're pretty large, though. Something that we did have happen around the same time period, which was the 1300s, was these windstorms, right? Because I believe that whenever we go through these cycles, that it directly affects the pressure in our atmosphere, as I talk to you guys about all the time. So I look throughout the historic record to see major changes in atmospheric pressure. Well, they didn't always measure, barometric pressure or whatever, but they did have accounts of people that saw massive storms, giant hurricanes, or whatever it may be, and we can know that that's directly related to a drop in pressure. So what else do we have here? Around the time of the Black Plague, that's also around the time that I would say that makes sense when the season of Satan would kick off, right? If you have the quote-unquote devil making his introduction into the world, I would expect there to be massive worldwide deaths, sicknesses, plagues, famines, you know what I mean? And we do. We've got the Black Death as one of the main main things that happened around that time. We also have this major windstorm called the Grote Mandrinke windstorm, 1362. Eyewitnesses described the sea rising suddenly. Entire towns were swallowed and bodies were floating in flooded churches. Coastal cities were completely erased. For example, the city of Rungholt. This event was spoken of as the Atlantis of the North Sea. Chroniclers wrote that the wind howled all day and all night, smashing ships inland, flattening stone buildings. It was described not as a simple storm, but a world-changing deluge. Patterns of death and climate shifts that coincide with the time period around the Black Plague. They were overlapping. We had unusually cold summers, crop failures, and famines. They said it was a tempest that lasted for days that was recorded across places like France and Italy. Chroniclers mention blood-red skies, roaring winds, and even mass lightning storms that shook the earth. Does that sound cataclysmic to you? That sounds cataclysmic to me. Let's see. And that happened approximately around 1362. It was also known as the Great Drowning of Men. It devastated coasts and actually reshaped the coasts from Rungholt and Ravensur Odd, and it killed an estimated 25,000 people. Eyewitnesses described waters flooding 25 kilometers inland, and entire towns were washed away. Records describe hurricane-force winds that uprooted trees. Oh, Library of the Untold is totally calling me right now. Hold on, let me say what's up. What's up, bro? You there?
Hey man, my stream is not going live from StreamYard right now because it says it's in red. The stream must be announced in the future. Please edit the announcement time.
Oh, snap.
Like, what's up?
I
know. I'm sorry, dude.
No, you're good. You can call me anytime.
how do I change the announcement time? Or I don't know. How do I?
So I would go into go into your YouTube studio, like click on like live stream, like you're gonna live stream,
Okay.
and see what pops up if it has one there already.
So I'm not supposed to be going through the StreamYard, or
No, I would go into
it's there
YouTube
or
Studio.
both? Okay, all right. I'm getting on my PC now.
Yeah, do that,
This is
and
fucking stressful.
I know. Do that. Try to start over. Delete anything that you have in the YouTube Studio, and then try to start it over. But I'm gonna have to check with you in a bit because I'm actually in the middle of live streaming right now.
Shit. Oh shit, not bad, dude. All
No,
right.
you're good.
Talk to you soon, bro.
All right, I'll talk to you later. All right, he's a cool dude. That's Library of the Untold, aka Joe or Joseph. Anyways, so I thought that would be a fun little pause during our presentation. All right, what else we got? Let's see. Anything else? Let's get back to time, phantom time, right? So some other things I have. I'm gonna actually put up a slideshow here, and then we'll take some calls because I want to hear you guys' thoughts on the subject of time acting strange. Here's a Bible verse, Mark 13:20. If the Lord had not cut short those days, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, whom he had chosen, he shortened them. All right, let me put up this slideshow here. There we go. All right, cool. So you're going to see some examples of time having been manipulated and changing. This one right here is interesting. This is actually a day when they had a February 30th, 2 leap year days in a row from 29th to 30th. Let's see what else I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, I want to share this verse right here from the book of Enoch, chapter 80, and that's First Enoch, starting on verse 2. It says, well, Enoch's talking to the angel Uriel, or Uriel, about the later days, about things that would happen in the future. And it says here in the book of Enoch, in the days of sinners, that is today, from my perspective, okay? This is an evil day. This is an evil time full of evil people, and people are messed up. Some people are more messed up than others, but anyways, people are messed up. In the days of sinners, the years shall be shortened, and their seed shall be tardy on their lands and their fields, and all things on the earth shall alter, and shall not appear in their time, and the rain shall be kept back, and the heaven shall withhold it. Let me just point that out. In the days of sinners, the years shall be shortened. Shorter years. Shorter years. Now, you'll see some of these pictures of I did a presentation about how younger people in the past looked older, right? So you'll see some comparisons, like these people are both 20 years old. This is someone modern who's 20. That's somebody decades ago who was 20. They looked older. Their years were longer. Our years are shorter. So while this person over here, might have been 20 years old or whatever, they're really not. As far as that's not the same length of time in a year as what it used to be. Let me make this, actually, let me fix this so that you guys can see the whole picture here, because it's cutting off some of this stuff. One sec. Let's see, window capture, is that it? Yep. All right, so let me just fix this up here so you guys can see the whole picture. Yeah, 23, 17. These guys are 17. Now, I'm not gonna, I've done this presentation a few different times as far as younger people looking older, and I've heard a million excuses where people are trying to say, oh, well, no, they smoked more, they drank more, they just dressed different. I'm not buying it. If you believe that, that's fine. 17 and 17, okay? Anyways, I think that's good enough for now. You can believe whatever you want to. I'm just telling you what I think, okay? What's convincing to me personally. Anyways, Book of Enoch says, in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened. Shorter years equates to shorter days, equates to shorter seconds. Some people have also pointed out that whenever You close your eyes. If you click a stopwatch and you try to count 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, as you normally would, or one Mississippi or one alligator, however you do it since you were kids, right? By the time you open your eyes and you click stop on that stopwatch, it's going to be a huge difference the longer you count, right? It goes on to say, and in those times the fruits of the earth shall be backwards, and shall not grow in their time, and the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. The moon shall alter her order and not appear in her time. What time is that? What time is the moon supposed to be out? Night time. How many people have seen the moon out in the daytime? I mean, come on. That should be an obvious one, right? And in those days the sun shall be seen, and shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west, and shall shine more brightly than accords with the order of light. All that's simply saying, oh, there's no year zero, by the way, just in case I forget. Academia goes by a year zero, so they're completely wrong no matter what. Okay, when it comes to academics and whatever they teach you about what year it is, they're wrong because they include a year zero. Religions don't, and in other communities and stuff, but academics does, as far as those officials who are in charge of officially telling us what year it is and stuff, right? Anyways, yeah, it says right here, the moon will not appear during the time it's supposed to appear, which is nighttime, and the sun will start shining more brightly, which, if it does, makes sense that the world would get hotter, doesn't it? Right? Which would make the oceans hotter, which means oxygen would be released in mass from the ocean water, which would have an effect up here, and human beings would probably, grow a bit larger for a time, and life in the ocean would start to die, those things that breathe through gills and need that oxygen, and then you'd have more bacteria showing up in the ocean, and then the ocean would start to change color and turn from blue to green, and then from green to red tide, and then that would release toxins and neurotoxins and chemicals, and people would have new diseases and pandemics of coughing and respiratory problems. And do you see how this might all be connected and important to what time we're in and knowing where we are and when we are, especially when? This is the ancient Roman calendar. December means 10. November means 9. Oct means 8. Sept means 7. Sex means 6. Quint means 5. They had 10 months in ancient Rome. They added 2 entire months to their calendar, right? Named them after Augustus and Julius Caesar. They added 2 months. And you know what the official explanation for that is? Let me tell you, because this is funny. They say, well, they didn't add 2 months technically. They just stopped keeping track of time during winter because the crops wouldn't grow. So there was really no point to keep track of what day it was during wintertime. That's literally the excuse. They still had 12 months. They just forgot about them. They just disregarded 2 months worth of winter when it came around. That's it. Time just stops. They just ignore time when it's winter. No, it makes way more sense to me that their reckoning of time, their experience of the luminaries, which is how we keep track of time, was different because they were moving at different speeds. If you go all the way back into ancient history during the time of Enoch, he says that he celebrated, and his people celebrated, 1 year as being 360 days. Not 365 or 365.25 or whatever it is that they're trying to change it to all the time, right? So, it also says here, many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order that is prescribed to them. And these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons that are prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, like the workings of the sky, the luminaries. People stop looking up. They stop paying attention to the luminaries. They stop keeping track of where they're supposed to be, as our ancients did, our ancient forefathers. Those who came before us, they built megalithic structures, drilled holes into them that would align from one hole to another one perfectly to a certain star or the sun at a certain time of the year, an exact time of the year, because they needed to make sure it was in the right spot at the right time. Because if it wasn't, they would pack their bags. They would get ready because they knew the apocalypse would happen. And evil shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them so as to destroy all. Here's another prophecy from Baruch, the second book of Baruch, chapter 20. Verse number 1, it says, "Therefore, behold, the days will come, and the times will hasten, more than the former, and the periods will hasten, more than those which are gone, and the years will pass more quickly than the present ones." That's pretty, I'll break it down. The word hasten means speed up. So let's read it again. "Therefore, behold, the days will come when the times will speed up, more than they used to, and periods will speed up, more than those that have already passed by. The years will pass more quickly than the present ones. Therefore, I now took away Zion to visit the world on its own time more speedily." Let's see. I don't know if I want to read all this. Yeah, but that's the gist of it. That's from the second book of Baruch. What else we got here? Hold on one sec. Yes. So time speeding up, in reference to time speeding up, right? Why am I talking about time speeding up? Because that's why the calendars keep being manipulated. Now, there might be other reasons, secondary reasons as well, but humans are trying to keep up. It seems to me. The humans are trying to keep up. They start noticing over time, the seasons are screwed up. We should probably fix the calendar. We seem to be in the wrong time. We should probably adjust. Another train coming past. Hopefully it doesn't bother you. What else we got? So let's go back to the Bible. Mark 13, chapter 20. "And except that the Lord had shortened the days, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, whom he chose, he shortened the days." Matthew chapter 24, verse 22 says the same thing. "Except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh that would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened." And that doesn't mean like the apocalypse will come sooner. It just means the days will be shorter than they used to be. Revelation chapter 9, verse 5. "And to them it was given that they should not kill them." This is talking about the two witnesses, I think. Oh no, this is talking about the locusts that come up. Actually, I'm going to skip that one. Let me get to something more relevant. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. "For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has but a short time." A short time. A short season, as in his total amount of time that he can rule. But maybe it also means time is literally short. He rules during the shortening of the days. He rules during a short time. When time has been shortened, or how we keep track of time has been shortened as the clock speeds up to match the luminaries in the heavens, which have sped up on their course. Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. "And they shall be given unto his hand for a time, times, and the dividing of time." Time is being divided. Time is being halved. It's being cut short. And as we talked about earlier with younger people in the past looking older, right? Today, and I've read 100 different comments from all of you around the world. And there's always exceptions, you know what I mean? There's always somebody that has an opposite viewpoint or whatever. But in general, your comments have told me that most of you look about 15 years younger than you really are. In general, okay? Sometimes 20 years younger, sometimes 10 years younger, but it's right around 15, which is just from your comments that I have read. I've been keeping track. All right? So 15 years, just from what I'm gathering here on my YouTube channel, talking to all of you and listening to all of you. What else? Let me see what else we got. Let's see. There's a verse, within Islam, I think I have that quote. Don't they have a quote here? I think I put it up on the screen here, but they quote the Prophet Muhammad that talks about how in the future, time will pass and it'll feel like the flickering of a flame, basically, that the years would get shorter and shorter and shorter. Time would speed up and speed up and speed up until time feels like it's going by so fast. So this would necessitate a change of how we keep track of time. This would necessitate constant updating of time, especially whenever it's going really fast, right? So you think about your computer clocks, your cell phones, all the updates they're doing to all of your technology, refrigerators, microwaves, power outages that are done and orchestrated on purpose to turn off any of your older devices that might not be connected to the internet, so that you have to restart the time. You have to program it manually, where are you going to find the time? Where are you going to look and see what the time is? Well, the only thing that's going to show you where the time is the stuff that's not plugged into the wall that uses Wi-Fi and stuff. And you can just, let me check my phone, see what time it is. And then I'll update my oven clock or my wind-up alarm clock or whatever it may be, right? Let's see. I'm going to check out some of these pictures, and then I'm going to open up the phone lines. If anyone wants to call in, get ready. So I'm just going to comment on some of these pictures real quick. But in short, they have been manipulating time for a very long time, for quite some time. Time is constantly being manipulated from leap year. Well, let me take a look at these pictures here, because these will help me out. So, for example, there was the time when this was in Sweden, I think. Hold on, let me read this. It says, did February have 30 days? Believe it or not, this wasn't a scene from a science fiction novel, but a real historic oddity that unfolded in Sweden in the year 1712, right? And this was related to the change between the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar. This is the quote that I was telling you. The hour will not be established until time passes rapidly, such that a year is like a month is like a week is like a day, and a day is like an hour is like the flicker of a flame. I experienced that, and I have no proof. I don't even believe in proof. Proof is just proof to you. If it's convincing to you, if it's compelling to you, if it resonates with you or vibes with you, then it's proof to you. This is proof to me. These are my proofs. Now, this calendar also, if you look this up, you'll see different years. Sometimes you'll see 1582, sometimes it'll be the 1700s, and you see it skip from Thursday the 4th to Friday the 15th, right? But on other times, you'll see a different year. That's because other countries, like I said, waited many years before they were pressured by the Pope, essentially, right? To conform to that method of timekeeping. What else? Leap year, right? I mean, who are these people to just change time without taking a vote? At least here in the United States. You guys vote on this? Do you have a say-so in time? Like, for example, the one that really gets to me and bothers me personally is daylight savings time. That's messed up, man. I just want to know the time. The time. I don't want to know, like, what time we all agree on, and we can all agree to change time. I don't want to change time. I don't want to mess with that. I want it to just be constant and dependable as time should be, right? So these are some more examples, right, of 20 years old today versus 20 years old decades ago. You know what I mean? Here's Tom Cruise at 56 years old. Here's Wilford Brimley at 50, 6 years younger at the time. This guy looks like he's 70, right? Tom Cruise is 56. There's something wrong, man. And I know, trust me, I know people are going to say, oh, well, Justin Bieber just has better genes, or, we've got better medicines and sunscreens and whatever than back in the early 70s or whatever. Nah, you could say that all you want to. You could believe that if you want to too. I don't. I will disagree. Okay. 17 years old versus 23 years old, even further back in time. Right. And like I said, some of these pictures could be wrong. I'm sure that the internet's flooded with all kinds of misinformation, but some of these I have checked on personally to actually verify. And from what I understand, that woman was actually 17 when that picture was taken. This girl was 17 when this picture was taken. So even if there are some anomalous instances of, the internet just being flooded with garbage and AI and stuff, I remember. I can look back at I can open up my own photo album of my family history. There's a mosquito in my room. Man, I hate mosquitoes. All right, anyways. I missed some pictures. Hold on. Oh, yeah, we talked about that one. Talked about the Bible verses. Here's the 1752 date where they just went from September 2nd to the 14th. So if you were supposed to be born on the 7th, which is my birthday, you're screwed. You weren't born. I don't know how you're supposed to celebrate your birthday. Oh, tombstones. Let's talk about the 1,000 years. So in addition to the phantom time hypothesis of 297 years being added to the calendar to justify the rule and align it with the year 1000 of certain rulers, we also have this, right? Many people have pointed this out, that on ancient coins, tombstones, and whatnot, that they used to mark the year, instead of saying AD, they would put a J or an I for the year of Jesus, or the rule, the millennial rule. Hold on, let me fix this. I'm going to turn off my slideshow here. Bam. All right, cool. So they would do this. They would put I 624, or they would put J 624. I think I have another one in here that has a really good example of a J. And so over time, people just start, they would start writing, oh, it's 1624. And then they would start saying 1624 instead of 624 within the year of Jesus, or the rule, the millennial rule, the golden age, or however you want to see it, right? They would mess it up. Now look at this alleged number 1 here, how thick it is and how it looks, right? Let's see if we can find a letter I. Oh, well, the J right here is the letter I, actually. So Iyun, and we have an I over here. Same exact glyph. There's an I right there, right? There's an I right there. That's the exact same I in William as this 1. Now, I already know there's people will be on both sides, but it's pretty compelling to me, right? The phantom time conspiracy theory claims that the time period from 614 AD to 911 AD never existed. This theory asserts that these additional approximate 300 years of history were fabricated during the Middle Ages to legitimize Otto's claim over the Holy Roman Empire. We talked about that. It's from Back to the Future, where they go back to the birth of Jesus, except for there was no year 0. So I don't know where Doc would have ended up had he actually gone to that year. He might have got stuck in the doldrums between time. Oh, here's that one that has the J on it that I really like. So it's supposed to be from the year 1728. That's a J. That is a J. Hold on, let me see what else we got here. See how they spelled differently? Life. That's clearly a J. You know what I mean? Come on. This is not the year 1668. That's the year of Jesus, 668. It's obvious to me, okay? I'm sure you could find evidence either way for what people think. Oh, the Mayan calendar. What does that mean about the whole Mayan calendar prophecy, right? Oh, the world was going to end in 2012, and then everybody laughs because it didn't. Joke's on you. It's not 2012 yet. 2012 is in the future because time is quickening. Another thing that I also forgot to mention, shout out to the Y-Files. He also did a video on the phantom time hypothesis. Another thing that I forgot to mention is the number of centenarians, which is people that reach 100 years old, which was supposed to be this huge milestone, right? If you go back 100 years and you look at the record, if I were to chart the number of people that live to be 100, 100 years ago, during the early 1900s, there was almost none, hardly anybody. And then it started to raise, and it started to go up higher and higher and higher. Now it's towards like 1 million people on Earth that live to be over 100, and they will make excuse for that. They'll say, "Oh no, it's sunscreen's really good," and they didn't know about sunscreen a long time ago. And modern medicine is the best, right? Isn't modern medicine the best, keeping us young and healthy and letting us live to be 100? Or is the truth that it's actually poison? And all these people who think they're 100 are not. They're much younger than that. And nobody's living to be 100. People are dying earlier and earlier and earlier, having heart attacks and strokes and diseases and stuff well before they're 50. right? Is time speeding up? And therefore, or how we keep track of time, is how we keep track of time, which is the luminaries, speeding up, and therefore we're getting more and more birthdays back to back than we used to. We'd have to wait a bit longer to celebrate birthdays. Now it's like birthdays come around all the time, right? And just me personally, and then I'm going to open up the phone lines. Me personally, I feel time speeding up. How we're keeping track of the time. I don't even know what time it is anymore. I look at the clock and I'm just surprised every time I look, especially if it's late at night. I look and I'm like, God, please don't be 4 o'clock in the morning again. I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's only 9:30. Well, that's cool. I've got some extra time to do stuff. Or inversely, you know what I mean? I have no time when I used to have all the time in the world. Other people will say, oh, well, that's because you're getting older and you've got more responsibilities and you need to, you know, time flies whenever you're more active and stuff. No. Time was slower. I had more time to experience things. The further back in time I go, the more time I had. But these days, I have no time to get anything done. And I'm sure you guys have told me the same thing, that you have no time to do anything. That you can barely meet your obligations. That you're constantly being hurried in your life. So I personally feel and sense and know deep down within me, as an intimate knowing in my soul, that how we keep track of time is speeding up, which is an omen of the apocalypse. And therefore, the entities that are in control of this world, the governments and stuff, they have to constantly change time. So whether or not we've lost 300 years of our history, and whether or not this pseudo-historical conspiracy theory has any truth to it, there's an overwhelming and abundant amount of evidence that's been compiled over thousands of years to show that time has been manipulated by humans time and time again. It's been changed, or our time keeping methods, the way that we keep track of time has changed time and time and time again. So it would be no surprise to me if there was any validity to that theory. Let me go ahead and open up the phone lines. I'm going to take a couple calls here. I want to know what you guys think. I especially want to know if you feel, and you don't have to agree, you don't have to call in and be like, oh yeah, I agree with everything you said. You know, if you have an opposing view, you're free to call in as long as you're respectful. You know, if you feel like time is slowing down, feel free to share that. I'll be shocked, but you can feel free. I mean, I've seen people comment and be like, I actually think it's slower. Hold on, let me pull up this website that I use here. And I'll get this the phone lines turned on. Here's the phone number right here. It's 719-357-7921. And I'm getting those phone lines turned on right now. So I'm going to take, we'll take 3 to 5 callers today. We'll see how it goes. And it depends on how long each caller talks for. But we'll take between 3 and 5. And I might start actually turning my presentations more into, you know, taking calls during like a second half. I like that. I like doing a presentation and hearing from you guys. I also like to look at the chat too. So while I wait for a call to come in, let me go ahead and see what everyone's saying in the chat. We got Jake Davis Music who says, JayDreamerZ, I'm glad that you've been researching this. I've thought for years that the days are getting shorter. So we tend to see the same there, Jake Davis. And if you want to get my attention in the chat, just type in @JayDreamerZ and it will highlight in my chat. Oh yeah, MS says, I love how late the sun goes down now. So, oh yeah, because we're getting into summertime, right? But it's not staying up there as long as it used to. And I've seen videos, and I've seen this from my own eyes, where the sun rises. You can see the glow of the sun rising at like 3:30 in the morning, 3:45, 4 o'clock-ish. You know, I mean, I never would see that going back in time until around maybe 5:15, 5:30, somewhere around there is probably the earliest I can remember going back into like my childhood or younger times, you know, teenage times and stuff like that. No way I would ever expect to go outside and hear birds chirping at 3:30 in the morning, which I have. Blows my mind. All right, so we're doing call-ins right now. If anyone wants to call in and share your experiences with time, and anything that you've been going through as far as how you feel time has been moving or being adjusted or manipulated, feel free to give me a call, 719-357-7921, and we'll have a chat together. Let's see. I got a caller. My first caller. I'm gonna go ahead and answer this.
Call from
Naomi.
All right, got Naomi on the line.
to accept, press 1.
Aloha. What's up, Naomi? This is JayDreamerZ. How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. What do you think about today's topic of time manipulation?
I love it. The only thing is, when I was a kid, we used to count the seconds by saying 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I wonder how that translates today. I haven't checked it, but I'm wondering if we're...
I've tried it. You haven't tried it?
No, not yet, because the topic just came up and it just hit me.
Yeah, I'm counting slower. So whenever I hit the stopwatch, and my 1 Mississippis are way slower than the actual 1 seconds that are being counted on the clock. So I'll be at like 10 seconds or 10 Mississippi, and I look at the stopwatch and it's at like 17 seconds or something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I haven't tried it. I'm going to try it because I do have a stopwatch somewhere. The other thing is that it seems like the years go by too fast,
Yes.
Like, I'm getting older, but I don't look as old as I should be looking.
Makes sense,
For real.
right? I mean, that's a blessing and a curse, I guess. Depends on how you look at it. But
That's why what your topic rings hard with me, because it almost makes sense. And the Bible does say that time will be shortened. So
right. And I mean, have you yourself, not just you saying like, oh man, I feel like last year went by fast. Have you heard anyone else say that in the past few years?
Everybody.
Really?
Everybody.
Damn.
In fact, when I even say it, they agree with me. So they're like, you're so right. I'm like, I just had a birthday. How did this happen?
I know.
I'm having another.
Right?
So there's something to that. It's amazing that you're touching on it, because you're not the only one. Other people are talking about it. That time goes by fast. And I thought, okay, so that's how we're seeing it, maybe because we're older. But if you timed it, when you said that the way we measure time today is different, I'm like, well, how about the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi?
Right. The old fashioned. I mean, like, we used to do that when we were kids, and we'd play hide and seek or something, and you stand there and you count. And I mean, we all know how to count the seconds, and it's not matching up.
So let's say the clock, right? A digital clock will always be lagging then compared to an atomic clock.
Now that's something I've also experimented with. And I've done that. I'm not doing it now currently, but I ran an experiment for about 3 years. I had an oven clock that's not connected to any type of internet or Wi-Fi or anything. It's just a digital clock that I had. And, I crossed my fingers and I hope I wouldn't have any power outages or anything. And I didn't for about 3 years. And lo and behold, that oven clock was completely different 3 years later than my computer clock. I never touched it. I never adjusted it for daylight savings time. I never did anything. And I noticed that there was a huge gap between the time that it said on my oven clock and the rest of the, the digital clocks that I had in my house. And then I had a guest that came over and they saw that my oven clock was not on the right time. So they changed it. They're trying to do me a favor and fix the time on my oven clock. And they didn't realize they kind of just messed up my whole experiment.
My clock on the wall is a digital clock, and it's always off. But I'm thinking that maybe while I was asleep, I don't know, time stopped for a moment as far as the electricity in my other clocks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't realize if it's faster or slower. I just know it's off. And then I have to climb up there and adjust it.
Yeah. Well, in my house, I don't change or adjust the clocks anymore for daylight savings time. I protest that in my own house. So half the
Yeah,
year
what
I have a clock up here that I know is an hour off, and then the other half of the year it's supposed to be correct. But it runs on batteries. I don't really depend on that one because the batteries will run out, you know.
Yeah, well, I just recently changed the battery so that I can check it out because I thought maybe the clock was bad, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
because it's always off. And
Yes.
so is my microwave clock.
Yeah. Well, a lot
So,
of people are reporting that to me. I've had a lot of reports where people are saying their clocks are off. They're constantly having to change them and update them. The clocks in their car versus the clocks on their computers and their cell phones and
uh-huh.
stuff.
But people should talk about this more because this is big.
It's big, right? This is huge. This
Yeah.
affects everybody.
I mean, I guess your workday would be shorter on the bright side.
Right, but you'll have
Right?
more work days. You know, you
True.
won't have less. You'll be headed back to work a lot sooner than you would if you had longer days off.
Now, how does that affect our body, our circadian
You'll be
rhythm?
exhausted. That's how it's
So that
affecting my
explains my
body.
fatigue.
Right. Yes. You'll
Holy
find,
cow.
you know, some symptoms you would find yourself waking up at strange times or inversely sleeping in longer. It would definitely affect people's sleeping habits. In
I
theory.
thought it was my body. I actually thought, oh my God, I got fatigue now. I'm so tired. I feel like I didn't get enough sleep, although according to the clock, I did, you know.
Right.
So I don't understand. But that's good that you brought this topic up because I'm fascinated now. And now
Well,
I'm
good.
going to
Thank you.
measure it. All right. Thank you. And by the way, I love your show. I love your topics,
Oh,
and
you're
I always
sweet.
tune in. All right. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, she was a sweetheart, and she made some really good points too. While she was talking, I was also reminded of they kept making a point because I talk about truth in movies, right? I'm gonna turn the phones back on here in just a second. But in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, he keeps on telling himself, "Don't forget to wind your watch." You know what I mean? He had a watch that you had to, an old fashioned one. You have to wind it up because if he didn't wind his watch. And let's just say that the movie's trying to touch on this concept of time changing and not being able to know exactly what time it really is, which the whole movie was about that. Time, the concept of time, right? That makes sense that he would constantly say, don't forget to wind your watch. It's not like they didn't have digital clocks or electronic watches during Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or whatever. So he had an old-fashioned wind-up watch. If he doesn't forget to wind it, he can keep track of what time it actually is all the time. We did decode that movie. I'm going to turn the phones back on. We'll take a couple more callers. If you guys want to call in, the number is 719-357-7921. Zedrin Bing's in the chat and says, yes, you're right. Time is feeling faster unless you're doing something hard like pushing for a new PR in the gym, a personal record in the gym or something. Right. I mean, like how we feel time is moving is easily manipulated by us and what we're doing. I get that, right? But just in general, it seems like time's speeding up, right? Let's see who else we got in the chat. We emit time. Ooh, a palindrome. Emit time. Emit also. Emit, truth, the Hebrew word truth. Emit as in Doc. That's Doc's name in Back to the Future, speaking of time movies. Let's see, we got Black Sheep who says, dude, I'm telling you, in 3 weeks, my grandfather clock from the 80s was 30 minutes behind. I believe it. I believe it. Let's see. Tiffany Marie says, even a broken clock is right twice a day. 30 minutes behind is pretty crazy. All right, I'm going to keep the phone lines open for another couple of minutes here. Oh, we got another caller. Sweet. All right, let's answer this one.
Call from.
This is Russell Gregory.
To accept, press
Russell
1.
Gregory,
To send a
I
voicemail,
accept.
press.
Aloha, what's up, Russell Gregory? This is JayDreamerZ.
Hey, what's up? Aloha.
Hey, good to hear from you.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call, man. This is awesome. So live on the show.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're live on the show.
Yes,
Have
sir.
you been watching
So
the whole topic today?
I didn't get to see everything. I kind of came in late.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I would have caught the whole show because it was mainly on time. Is this
Right.
correct?
Yeah, time differential, time manipulation specifically, and then we kind of wrapped it up with talking about how I was sharing with people how I feel time is changing, like how we keep track of it. Like I feel it's speeding up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are your feelings on the subject?
Oh man, I wish I was more of an astronomer type of person that watched the sky more. Maybe I could give more insight on that. I do feel more like things are lagging behind. Instead of going by really fast, it seems a little. I don't know. It's a day-to-day thing, really, to be honest. But yeah.
Where are you from?
I am from Northeast Georgia.
Okay, Georgia.
Yep, right below the Appalachians.
I just talked with someone yesterday that was from Georgia too. Oh, do you have a job where you wake up early in the morning, or are you a night worker?
No, I am a quadriplegic. I am a non-worker. Well, I still work, but not like a regular all the time job.
Well, I was asking because I've mentioned a couple times that like I've heard the birds singing when it's still dark outside, like hours before the sun comes up.
I do too. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard that?
I wake up super early, but I have lately. Yes, for like the past, I would say, at least 6 months. I've been noticing earlier and earlier.
Yeah, strange things,
and
these are things that we have to pay attention to. What was that?
Go ahead. I said it's either the train or the birds here that wake you up.
Oh, you have a train too?
Yes, yeah. I'm really close to train tracks. I'd say I'd say about a quarter mile. About a quarter mile. Yeah, man. So how is it for you though? Like is time speeding up like super quick in your life? Like are you noticing that?
Yeah, for me it's extremely fast. For me, I feel like there's not enough time in the day. Yeah. And it's not just the day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's all kinds of different experiences that I can remember. I feel like I'm actually more patient than I used to be. Like if someone asked me to wait 1 minute, that's nothing to me today. But 1 minute, waiting for 1 minute a long time ago felt a lot longer. And it's not just because I was younger a long time ago. Like
literally you felt that.
Yeah, it just like the year goes by fast. It's not just like, oh, today went by fast because I got busy or whatever. You know, even if it's a lazy Sunday and I'm doing nothing, the day goes by quickly. And then they stack and they stack. Like when it's New Year's, I knew this year, January 1st, 2025, one of my first thoughts that I had was next thing I know, I'm going to look at the calendar, I'm going to look at my watch, and it's going to say something crazy like March. You know what I mean? Or April or some crazy month.
Yeah.
And in a short period of time, I knew I was expecting that to happen. And here we are. It's the year 2025.
Yeah, that's wild, bro. It's when you say that out loud, it's yeah. You say it out loud, 2025. You're like, oh shit! I was looking for like flying cars and
yes,
like futuristic stuff by now. Like,
it's not just that it's the year 2025. It was just not too long ago, 2020. We're 5 years later already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree
that was
with that.
Not that long ago. I just I can't prove any of this, but it's just, I'm screaming from my soul.
Yeah, and I just did a short presentation. I'm not really good. I'm new at podcasting, so
cool.
I'm trying to get the hang of it on StreamYard. So I just did a presentation because I like watching. And I'll make this quick. I know we got to get other callers in for you, but So I don't know if you're familiar with Sabrina Wallace. She does stuff about the human biofield, and like what we always called the aura, right?
Okay.
Electromagnetism from the body, and how far it radiates out, right? I just did a podcast on kind of some of this information about biosensors, things that come down from the sky and land in the crops and on your skin, and geoengineering kind of things. And she was talking about how these biosensors need to be powered by your energy, right? So
That makes sense.
I think when a lot of people are talking about being weak or feeling drained all the time, that may have something to do with it. So
Right.
cleansing your body is going to help, with that kind of thing. I just wanted to mention that.
That's a good point. And also, it's just important during this quote unquote season of Satan or end times or whatever, for us to actually push that much harder to stay healthy. I mean, I know it's a struggle for me. Okay. I mean, you guys only get to see me for like an hour of my life whenever I decide to live stream, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm trying to bring you my best, you know what I mean? So imagine what I'm like when I'm not in the public eye. I'm struggling. I'm trying my hardest. I'm trying to keep it together. I'm trying to be as healthy as I can mentally and spiritually, but it's a fight. I battle every day, my hardest. My daughter sent me a text yesterday, and she was like, maybe you need a good cry, Dad. Maybe you just need to have yourself a good cry. And I'm like, I just honestly responded, and I said, I ran out of tears years ago. Like, I'm on empty. I'm trying. You know what I mean? And I applaud everybody who's just getting through. Just making it to the next day, is however fast it might come. These are
well, this is the
trials.
cool thing about these communities, Jay, to be honest, man, is information, helping each other to push through and be informed. That way you can inform others. It's kind of like it's a train, right?
Yes.
Where, somehow we're all attached, even if it's just spiritually or energetically, bro. Like, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to say that word, but it's good to always be there for each other, man. So I appreciate what you're doing, man, and keep up the hard work. And hey, man, it's a thing that I'll keep in my prayers for sure.
Thank you. All right, well, it's
yes,
good
sir,
to talk
man.
to you.
Thank you,
and
buddy.
enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, you too, sir. See you.
Bye. Wow, man, I love that. See, I'm turning the phone lines back on. Thank you all so much. Okay, not just to our callers, but thank you guys so much for being there for each other. I mean, I see you guys talking to each other in the chat all the time and sharing and everything you guys do with one another. That positivity, focusing on the solution instead of the problem. We acknowledge the problem, but we're wise in focusing on the solution instead of just dwelling on the issues, right? You guys have helped me out so many times. Thank you. Just thank you. From one human being to all of you who are watching, all of you who comment over the past 10 years, all of you who are there for one another, not just me personally, but all of you who leave your mark and shine your light in the world. Thank you. Thank you on behalf of myself and on behalf of so many other people whose lives you probably don't even know that you've influenced or touched or inspired. Ah, man, thank you. What a good message. I love that. We got Kells Bells in the chat. It says, JayDreamerZ, let's round up about 50 old clocks, run an experiment on them. I mean, we can do that. I'll do that. Maybe I'll go to the Goodwill and look for like a wind-up clock or something, and then I'll do a live stream and we'll like all set them at the same time or something. That's a good idea. Time Trap, that's a good one. Ooh. User says, check out Time Trap from 2018. I think I actually decoded that movie. But that's a really good one. I like that one. Where they get stuck inside that cave. I think that's the one, right? And they see the sun flying past. Let the days fly past. See, they even show you that in the movies. Like they show you the sun moving super fast in the sky and stuff. It's the luminaries speeding up. It's not time. Time's just constant, or what we think is time. But how we keep track of it speeds up. I think that even happens in the Hunger Games too. Right? The little dome that they're in, right? And there's like that one clock one. Everything moved like clockwork. All right, this is going to be our last call for today. And we'll wrap things up.
Call from
Brandon, I think you said.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Aloha, this is JayDreamerZ. Is this Brandon?
Hey, this is Brandon. How you doing, JayDreamerZ?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Just walking my dogs. Am I live on the air?
You're live on the air, out walking the dog.
Oh my goodness!
Checking out the live stream. That's what I do too.
Yeah.
I like to put my favorite YouTubers on and just listen to them while I'm like taking my son to school or doing chores and stuff. It's like the best.
Yeah, man. So just been following you for a little while. Had a dream back in 2019. It was kind of one of those. It was an apocalyptic dream, where
Really?
the stars came down from heaven, and it just woke me up. So I started, looking into these things, and your channel kept popping up, and I really appreciate your content, man. And I am on board with time speeding up. I can't believe it's almost July the 4th. But one thing I don't understand is, all right, if the luminaries, the sun, moon, and stars are speeding and advancing in time, how is the clock, still, predicting the same hour to hour,
Right.
That's one thing I can't understand. Go ahead.
I think it just depends on what clock it is. So like we were talking about earlier, I've had a lot of comments from viewers and stuff that tell me that they have, some wind-up clocks or analog clocks or whatever, that they're never updated or anything. And then as they watch them over time, they end up being slower than, more modern clocks, or like clocks that are updated and constantly changed through the internet, or, power outages and stuff like that. So actually somebody in the chat just a minute ago had mentioned that they have an old grandfather clock that was off by 30 minutes after just a short amount of time.
Yes, I'm definitely on board. The Bible does speak about it. The days would be shortened, and I think we're definitely living in that little season. I've come on board with that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your content, and just wanted to speak with you for just a moment and
It's
say
an honor.
I appreciate you.
Do you have a moment to tell us about your dream as you
Sure.
can remember it?
Yeah.
I'm really interested in
Yeah.
hearing people's apocalypse dreams.
Sure, man. Yeah. So, I've had some issues in my life, and during this time, I was going through a hard time. I'll put it like that. My little girl, she was during this time, she was 4 years old, and then she's in my dream. She was an adult, and so we have this thing where we'll go outside and we'll lay on our backs and look up at the stars. And we were looking at Polaris, and I was telling her how all the stars rotate, clockwise or counterclockwise around Polaris.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you could see the stars moving.
Yes.
You could see them moving, and see their trails. And then all the stars wound up into a huge ball up in the sky, and it looked like plasma. It came down and it hit the ground, and it was connected to the ground. It looked like lightning plasma.
Yes.
And then these balls, these UFO balls, or look like plasma balls, just flew off out of this thing that's rotating up in the sky. And then I told my little girl, I said, I guess we better get up and go back inside. And so we started running for the, an indoor place. And all of a sudden, one of those plasma lightning deals hit me. And I knew that whatever this was changing me. And whatever evil was in me was going to be left behind, and I was going to be changed.
Yes. How cool.
But what is strange about the dream is, it was a place that a piece of property a family friend of ours owned that I went to later on in my life. So maybe something like that's going to happen. I don't know, but it really woke me up. And so yeah, that's one of my dreams anyway. So have you had a dream like that?
I have. I mean, right when you said I was dreaming about my daughter, but she was older. I had the exact same kind of dream where my son's 10, but I mean, this was like 2 months ago. I dreamed this, but in my dream, my son was like, 17 or something, but I knew he was my son. He looked exactly how he should look if he was, twice his own age or something, and then I had this apocalyptic dream where, I mean, I've had a couple of them lately. I've had one where I saw all of the elite of my local area. They were like mining into the mountain. They were creating these bunkers, and I could like see through the mountain. Like I had X-ray vision. I could see their bunkers, and I could see them mining down and making bunkers, but nobody else could see it. And I had a dream recently where there's huge strands of giant lightning plasma looking strands. It was like they were all intertwined. They came down and they would hit and drag along these cities. It's not like lightning that would strike and then go back up, but it was like lightning that came down and then stayed down. And then I've been dreaming of huge storms, especially wind, like real strong windy conditions. And then oftentimes I've had many different dreams similar to the one that you just described, where I've seen the stars move like they're star trails, like time lapse. And not just a perfect circle either. Sometimes I'll see them like moving around and acting weird and stuff. But those are, when I have those kinds of dreams, when I look up at the sky and the stars are acting funny or doing strange things, it's really awe-inspiring to me. Like I'm just overwhelmed like by watching. Like I can't take my eyes off of it.
Yeah. I'm
Is
in
that
the
how you
same boat.
felt?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing, and I've heard at least 3 other people have a similar type dream. The people that I kind of follow and listen to on other channels, and another guy that I actually know personally had a similar dream. So maybe something's coming. The squatter man. I appreciate the information you put out about that. Kind of connected some dots. So apparently this isn't the first time something like this has happened. And I do have one more question for you. Do you think that with this plasma apocalypse that's coming, time being shortened, do you think that we're going to revert back to we had the ancient trees, back to its original beauty, back to Eden? Do you think we're going to go back to that original state?
In essence, yes, I do. The different parts of the world will, have their own differences. So I think there's going to be a huge difference in the post-apocalyptic world between the Southlands, where we consider all the countries to be right now, and Hyperborea, or the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden will be terrestrial paradise as you imagine it to be, as you envision it to be, and as we always have, and how we've heard about it forever. The Outer Worlds is going to be more like Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy and all the myths and legends and sci-fi and all that stuff coming together. A bit more dangerous, but still amazing compared to the times we live in today. It all depends on your perspective, but much more adventurous, I would say.
Yeah. I think that's actually written in the Bible. It talks about the people outside the camp to some degree. Of course, I'm not a theology expert by any means, but I think a lot of it's kind of misinterpreted. But,
you're right. Yeah, man. But it talks about outside of the camp of the saints.
Yeah. Well, man, I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate you speaking with me, and glad you're doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and maybe I'll talk to you soon. See you soon somewhere.
I'm sure we will. It was very nice to meet you.
You too. All right, Jay.
All right, bye-bye.
See ya.
Okay, well, that was our last caller. Man, I'm so honored to have you guys call in, and I'm sure the chat, everyone's really loving the calls. That's what I'm seeing, at least. A lot of people are really loving the calls. I did put up my Patreon, so today's the last day. If you want to join for the credits, you want to appear in the credits, you can have a big name in the credits or have your name animated in the credits. What I'm going to be doing next month for the next credit cycle is I'm actually going to be separating, and I'm going to be putting some people's names before each show. Hey, I got it. Unique, welcome. Oh, Unique, Unique gave me a super chat earlier. I want to say thank you. Yes, Unique 77783. Oh, she's got a comment up here too. Let me get to your comment here. Let's see. Let me pull this down. She says it's crazy. It's already half the year that's gone. I can't remember what happened in 2021, 22, 23. It's just me. Like, I remember some highlighted events, but not a lot. Well, that's another thing too, is just like some of these callers were talking about feeling drained and how it's important to boost our health and stuff like that. This season of Satan, as I talk about it, is energy that's dissipating. The energy that we have, along with certain gases and things like that, but just the energy of the earth is being pulled inward, getting ready to explode outward and being given back to us. So a lot of that, when we have a lack of energy, we have a lack of memories. So we can't remember anything. We're lucky if we can remember yesterday. I'll walk down into the living room and forget why I went down there. That's not right. You know what I mean? It's not just me either. We all live under an accepted state, an acceptable amount of constant amnesia. Not just amnesia about our past, amnesia about 2 days ago. You know what I mean? So all of these things stacked together create ample evidence for the changing times that we live in. All right, sweet. If you guys want to join the chat and continue the chat, I do have some chats that are on my Patreon page. There's a visitor chat. You can go in there, say hi, share some pictures, share your ideas, talk about today's show. There's also topic themed chats as well. And you can jump in there, check out what other people have been sharing in my Patreon chats. I've got some videos and stuff too. I'll be uploading more videos to Patreon. But I want to say thank you to everybody that's been joining my Patreon lately and just showing support through that. And the reason I do that is because YouTube used to take like half of your donations when you were trying to support me and make my life better. You were halfway supporting a company instead, you know, and Patreon takes just a fraction. So I want to say thank you so much. I am going on a trip in about 10 days with my son and my daughter. I'm going to go camping and take them up to Wyoming, to Yellowstone. So all of your donations are going to fund that trip for gas. I'm going to drive my car up there. We're going to put gas in the tank a million times, stop, get food and snacks and all that kind of fun stuff along the way. And, you know, if we have enough, maybe we'll like be able to eat at a restaurant or something instead of, you know, stopping at a grocery store and having sandwiches or something. I don't know. But whatever we do, we're going to have a great time, and we're able to do it thanks to you guys. So thanks to everybody in the chat. I can't wait to come back and actually read the chat once it uploads. And until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
But something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier on me if I turn away to flee. But there's something holding on in the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to
started to fade away. But something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. But there's something holding on in the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up.